Kia ora. This is case number 2 of Teen Rage Killers. If you haven't seen case number 1, I'll leave a link below. But for those of you who have, let's go look at another one of these types of DCs. Let's go look at this Muppet. His name is... And now for the backstory. This backstory is pretty simple, as it's just your typical jealousy type scenario. But in this case, and the reason why I chose it, is you'll see the mindset of someone that is so young, killing someone even younger. And that the rage brought on by jealousy turns someone insane, with a complete inability to rationalize or even comprehend how fucking dumb they actually are. Anyways, let's hit that backstory. Our dipshit DC was dating this chick. Her name is Elizabeth. She plays a part in this. How big a part? You shall see. Could she have known what was going to happen at any stage? Look, I don't know. That's a guessing game. And, well, I'm all out of guesses, really. But as you'll see, you'll get the info and you can take a guess. Also, let us know what that guess is below in the comments, because that would be interesting, especially when you find out what she got. Anyway, back to DC. So they're dating, and Liz happens to work, and one of her workmates is the victim. His name is Christian Dominguez Aguilar. Now, I don't have to say it, but I probably always will, because it seems that these DCs target only the good guys, and this victim is no different. Christian is absolutely no different. He was a really good kid, and he had a bright future ahead of him. But unfortunately, massively unfortunate, he just ended up working at the same place as this dipshit's girlfriend, Liz. And because DC is a completely weak little pussy, he didn't want Liz talking to any boys. Now, Liz, being someone that had a car, would every now and again drop off her workmates after work, and one of these nights DC followed her and saw that she was giving guys a lift home, and one of those guys just happened to be our victim, Christian. Now obviously that's what enraged this fucking Muppet, and he thought in his warped reality that Liz, his girlfriend, and Christian, her workmate, were getting it on, of which they were not. But you can't tell that to a dipshit, especially one that's a DC. So what happened is that DC found out where Liz was dropping Christian off after work, and what he did one time was to wait to see if Liz was dropping off Christian, and what he did was DC parked in his truck across the road, so he had a view of the front of a 7-Eleven where Christian would be dropped off by Liz. Now while waiting, our DC made a J for Genius plan. Now our DC, his genius plan was to murder Christian and get away with doing that. Now he's obviously put a lot of thought into this plan, because the plan actually involves Liz at one stage. But we get to see all that because it's all captured on CCTV footage. I think that's part of his plan as well, really. It's hard to say, really. If you're not a DC, it's quite difficult to say or think like a DC. Now, part of this genius's plan is that he's actually going to get away with doing what he does. And that's what makes him stand out like this guy. Because honestly, this DC really is fucking Einstein that has a plan like this. Of course, if you haven't seen Einstein, then I'll drop a link below and you should catch that episode as well, because you'll understand what the hell the narrator is talking about. Anyways, I digress. No, actually, wait a minute. I'm going to put a plug in here. If you could please like this video, and if you haven't already, please, dear God, subscribe. For some reason, the YouTube algorithm isn't posting my videos as suggested videos anymore. I don't know why. I'm trying to look into that. But if you want to see another episode like this, then make sure you subscribe, because it's the only way that you will be able to see DCs and Einsteins and idiots like this and us ripping into them. Anyways, I digress twice. Now let's get back to the story. So DC's J for Genius plan is just to wait for Liz to turn up, drop off Christian at the 7-Eleven, and then in his plan, DC is going to run him over, is going to crash his vehicle into Christian, killing him. And then inside his J4 plan, he's going to make an excellent escape and get away with it all. Why? Because he's a genius. He's a fucking genius. And here comes Liz now. She's dropping off Christian. And there's young Christian. There's young 18-year-old Christian. And he's on his merry way home, not knowing the danger that is about to face him. And here comes DC. Now what happens, DC tries to run him over in the car park. We don't actually see that, but what we do see is this part where he turns his truck around and he goes again trying to hit Christian. And that's where we pick it up here. Holy shit, that is truly the stuff that nightmares are made about. Now let's take a look at it again. I've always thought, you know, what would I do in a situation where someone was trying to run me down? Like, how would I do it? Would I wait till the last moment before I jump out of the way? Or if I couldn't get up a flight of stairs or into a building or something, you know, what would you do? You know, and I think what I'd do is I'd wait for the truck to get really close and I'd just jump out of the way, because that would seem kind of like the logical thing to do for the best chances. But here's the thing. That video you just watched, that's slowed down. And when it's played at real-time speed, you kind of realize you're fucked. That is horrific. Look at the speed of that. Yeah, if someone comes after you in a truck or a car at that speed, that range, you're screwed. And poor young Christian, he must have been freaking out. I think everyone really does just take a guess at what they would do in that kind of scenario, because there's like no classes that you can go to where they teach you what happens when your ex or someone that is fucking mental is trying to run you over at speed in a vehicle and you're on your own and there's nothing you can climb or hide behind. Truly, our DC really is a bag of shit. Right, let's get back to it. So DC hits Christian, and here you can see it from a different angle as the truck goes for Christian. This is what DC's truck ended up looking like. Smashed to pieces. Anyways, so DC hits Christian with the truck, and then what he does is he jumps out and then takes off. It's all just part of the plan. And inclusive in that genius plan is DC running back to the truck because he forgot the keys, because his front door key is on his truck keys. Genius. Just fucking genius. Now, here's the thing. Where is Elizabeth? Well, I can tell you where she is. That's her there. Now, here's the thing. As she walks up, old DC, he's at the truck getting the keys, and then he takes off. And she kind of takes off on after him. And then what she does is she comes on back, and then she goes up and checks out Christian, and then she decides, instead of hanging out with Christian, she's going to take off. And that's her going away. And then what does she do? Well, you see that car there? That's her car. And she now goes and picks up DC and takes him home. Now, obviously this J4 plan was brilliant and the getaway was clean, and maybe nobody saw it and old DC might have gotten away with it. But somehow the police managed to find him. So they go get DC and bring him on down to the station. Now, they haven't released a lot of the DC's interrogation, and that which they did release is really quite fucking boring. And it doesn't have an origin question because there's no need for that. We kind of like all know he did it. But there are indeed a couple of questions in here which show the mindset that we talked about before, this DC having. Ignorantly dumb. Now, he does admit that he knew that Liz was giving Christian a lift.
I have found out that my baby mom was cheating on me, and I mean that shit hurt me, and like I don't understand her. Like,
she wasn't. It's just this jealousy and paranoia inside Mr. Small Penis's brain.
So you go through her text and you know she's gonna be at 7-Eleven.
No, well, I hadn't gone through her text. I just had a feeling she was gonna drop the bomb.
Oh,
So because I was stalking her from the Circle K.
we're stalking her from the Circle K. All right, let me just draw this out.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just put this in here, but this genius pled not guilty because he thought that they didn't have enough evidence. But watch this part here.
All right. So I was right here, and I could see everything. And then once she dropped him off, I was kind of waiting for her to pull out a little bit. And then once I seen him, when he started walking this way. That's when I just came like that and just tried to hit him.
Just a genius, really. But it's this part of the interrogation where genius here completely throws away any chance of getting out of prison early by actually showing his mindset that we've learned about in this episode in a step progression of 3 specific questions put to him by the cop. And DC genius here falls for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Crucifies himself. So let's get into question number 1.
What if I told you hit him and you just knocked him out and he's not really that injured? Would that upset you?
Yeah, I just make sure
And didn't get anything out of it? Okay.
Question number 2.
If I told you you hit him and he's got a couple broken legs, but he'll probably be okay in a couple months, that's cool enough? All right.
And finally, question number 3.
Okay. What if I told you he was dead? What would that make you feel?
Well, I mean, she's dead. That's how I feel.
I know. What a piece of shit.
Let me tell you this: you killed him. Okay, you killed him. No joke. So how you feel?
I still don't care.
Oh, it's a mind of the young and the really, really dumb. Anyways, old DC clamped up after this and decided to get a lawyer, so that brought the whole interrogation to a standstill. A bit late for that, you muppet. So that pretty much wraps up the interrogation of this DC. So, how did it all end up? Well, of course, as I said, DC pled not guilty because, he didn't do it. So he goes to court and gets found guilty and gets 25 years to life. So he won't be driving a truck acting all cool showing his little penis for a while. And what about Liz? Well, here's the thing. Did she know that DC was a DC? Because they obviously couldn't prove it. Why? Because Elizabeth got 150 days jail with weekend work release. Like I said, it's a guess really, because if she did, then why'd you pick him up and drop him off? And if you didn't, then why didn't she stay and help Christian? So like I said, there's a lot of guessing. Anyways, what can we take away from these 2 episodes? Now, I'm not a child psychologist, psychoanalyst, psychotherapist, or a genius parent to boot. I'm me. But as me, and as you know me by now, I do have an opinion or 2, and that's usually tied in with some advice. And here I have 2. The first is, if you have a daughter and she is dating someone that looks like this, take her to an optometrist and get her some glasses and have a chat to her about if you date someone that looks like a piece of shit, that she will get the shits. And secondly, and I will use this sausage again, if you have a boy and your boy as a teenager starts referring to himself as a king, and that king is of a land of sausages, and that your boy king sausage starts collecting weapons, knives and swords and axes and all this other kind of shit. And if your boy king sausage just happens to have a diary, then for fuck's sake, read it. And if you think to yourself, oh, I just couldn't do that, then I want you to think back to this episode and this part here.
You're being charged with the murder of Tiana. That's the only charge right now. First degree murder.
And then think, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I say to you, it's better to be a sneaky parent with a kid on the outside than a parent with a king sausage on the inside. And that is my advice to you, my DC subscribers. Now, before I go, and while you are contemplating, fuck that guy's weird, eh? I also want you to think of sharing this episode. Why? Well, that is because of the next episode, which I'm creating now for my DC subscribers, which is truly fucking terrifying. It's about how killers and DC murderers find their victims at malls and supermarkets, and some advice about what we should be looking out for. So a mum, auntie, sister, or just someone that's a good friend, shoot them a link, tell them to subscribe, even if it's just for next week's episode, because it may just save their life. So stay safe, everyone. Stay safe, especially my DC subscribers. Stay safe.